Hi everyone, Chris here, and I've got an e-bike that is more like a motorcycle than it is really an e-bike. It's from a company called Gunai. It is the MX25 model. It has Chaoyang 20-inch by 4-inch wide fat tires, knobbly tread pattern, so they're great for where I am right now off-road. And you typically run a low PSI with these. So the max is 20 PSI, and I currently have in the front wheel about 11 and 13 at the back. So they're quite spongy, soaking up a lot of the bumps. So this bike has that motorcycle look to it, motorcycle aesthetic due to this. Well, it's got a headlamp here that has a daytime running LED that's not really that bright. The main lights, you can't swap between a high and low beam, but that's the way it's geared up. It has some focal lenses in there. And very good, the brightness, you'll be able to ride around at night with even no street lights and still see where you're going, which is good. Front suspension, it's again looking like a motorcycle setup here or a downhill style mountain bike. We've got about, with this one, 60 to 70 millimeters of travel. Quite a bit of travel according to the grease marks that I can see on it. And these steel painted mud guards. You have them in the box, you can put them on. You don't have to install them, and the bike I think would look even more like a motorcycle if it didn't have that bike rack on the rear and then these mud guards, which of course I could remove, but I've kept them on for this review. The MX25 does have beefier brakes than what I typically see. So these are X1, the brand of them. I've seen them before. They're very powerful. So hydraulic disc brakes, 180 millimeter. The discs themselves are thicker than your standard disc. This is to help stop them from warping under extreme heat. Hopefully I won't be getting them that hot in my time riding. Now the motor rear hub is a 48 volt system and up to 1000 watts peak. And I can tell you now that it's got plenty of power. And if you have it unlocked, it can even accelerate you up to speeds over 50 kilometers per hour. And a very run-of-the-mill setup here with our gears. 7-speed. It is the Shimano Tourney TZ. The brand of chain is an SLMC. I normally see KMC chains on these bikes. The pedals, well, they're not Wellgo pedals. In fact, no branding on them whatsoever. They look a little rough. They are metal, and so far they're doing the job. Now, like all of these Chinese e-bikes I'm reviewing, they don't use brand components when it comes to the shocks, at least not well-known ones. We don't have a Rock shock or a Fox shock. This here is a HLT100 hot. Yeah, kind of never heard of it before. I've seen, well, some of them in other bikes, and it works all right. It's certainly better than nothing, I will say that. So you can see the travel that I've gotten out of it is approximately 35 to 40 millimeters, and you do feel it. It works reasonably well, just like the front shock. The tail light is a 2-stage one, so when you brake, it gets a little bit brighter. It even does have indicators incorporated into it. Now, they're not particularly bright. I don't think motorists are really going to be able to see this during the day, so you're still better off using hand signals for when you turn. At nighttime, however, you can see these indicators flashing, and then the brake light does stand out quite a bit more. What does set our MX25 apart from the other e-bikes I've covered is this. The battery is located in the middle of the frame. Now it makes the frame a lot wider. I'll talk a little bit more about that when I do my road tests of the bike. But this is quite convenient then, because the battery can be removed. You can charge it inside the office or your house, or even in the bike if you wanted to. So it just simply slots into place. Like so. There is a key, there's 2 keys they give you, so it's locked there and no one can just go along and remove it. If you put it into the off position, however, that's also unlocking it, so it's not like you can turn it off completely, the bike, because if you do that, someone could just go along and pull out the battery, so it's always going to be on, unfortunately. But I do like the design of this, the way they've done it. The trade-off being, as mentioned, it's just wider here, this bar, which is a little more uncomfortable. One thing to note, that if you wanted to leave the key in the ignition and close down the handle cover, well, it won't let you do that. Even if you turn it to the side, the key's just a little too tall, so it won't quite work. The seat is adjustable. It's got a quick release, the only quick release on the bike. There's none on the front hub. And the seat is just a standard generic seat here. It's comfortable enough with a synthetic leather style finish to it. The frame's welds, the paint finish to it, and just the overall stiffness of the frame seems to be very good. I can't see any fractures, cracks. I've been throwing it around down some trails here, and it seems to be holding up well. The only thing I've noticed is that these screws here, they have loosened off a little bit over where we have the white protector here covering over the battery. They didn't use thread locking compound on those screws, so they've loosened off. I'm going to have to remove them all, put some thread locking compound on, and put them all back in to solve that problem. Handlebar height is not adjustable. It does have adjustable preload for each of the sides there, which is good. You can stiffen it up or soften it up if you want to. And our gear selector here, this is our cheap Shimano one. So this is to go down the gears, up the gears, and then we have the throttle here. The grips are not lock grips, so they are not screwed into place. However, they seem to be on quite firmly, and I haven't had them start to spin around on me yet, that is. Being hydraulic, the levers do have a very good feel to them. And you'll see that we have a reservoir here. So that's got our DOT3 brake fluid in it. This is for our indicators, and the horn, which is an electric one. Very loud, so great for safety. Pedal assist levels, up and down, power on here. There are some buttons on the side, 2 of them. So one's for the lights, the other is to go through the modes on the screen. The display is very clear, gives us all of that key information we need when riding. So our speed, pedal assist level, trip information, the battery gauge, which I want to say is quite inaccurate. You see it drop right down to about 2 bars, 1 bar when you're going up some very steep climbs. It's recovered now and telling me I have a lot more battery than I really actually do. So trip meter at the moment, I've done 46 kilometers. So is this a motorcycle, moped, or an e-bike? It's really like a cross between everything here. The MX25, heavy bike, so it's about 30 kilos. You do notice the weight of it. And the kickstand, I've had no problems with it. So that's good, because sometimes some of the kickstands they put on, they just can't handle that kind of weight. Now it has a speed sensor that can sometimes be a little bit slow to kick in. And when I stop riding, I'll do it now, see how the motor continues for about a second or so later. There's a bit of a delay there, you'll notice that. So if I had a torque sensor, that would have been better, but speed sensor is still fine. You just need to get used to that sometimes when you stop pedaling, it will still give you a little bit of power. So we have the 5 pedal assist levels. The riding position is fine, you're quite upright, which is good. However, you notice the wider bar here, because we have the battery in the middle of the frame, my legs, should I say my knees, they do sometimes rub up against the frame, and it takes a little while to get used to. That was quite off-putting in the beginning when I started to ride the bike. Now the motor, you can hear it. It's not a quiet motor, it's very powerful, of course, the 1000 watts. Now riding it, when you have it set and locked to 25 kilometers per hour, you kind of get stuck at that speed because of the weight of it. I'm in the 7th gear, and if I push really hard, pedal really hard, I can get it up to around 28, 30 kilometers per hour. Due to its weight, these tires, and being 20 inches, you really don't want to be riding it without the motor or having no battery life. Climbing performance of the MX25, well, look at this, not a problem at all for it. So if you're someone that doesn't want to have to put a lot of effort into some steep climbs, or you don't need to with this bike at all. So I'm just in the 3rd, 4th gear at the moment here, pedal assist level 2. I can put it up to 5 here. It's about the same there with the climbs at pedal assist level. Very good. I'll stop pedaling now completely and just use our throttle. And you can see with that, not an issue. It's going up this. I'm going at a rate of about, climbing at a rate of about 21 kilometers per hour. So very good climbing performance thanks to the powerful 1000 watt motor. Emergency braking test here, so we've got 180mm disc brakes, hydraulic, very good, really good braking performance. I'm actually doing about 40 kilometers per hour now. And I'm able to stop well ahead of this post here. So because we have the fat, soft, spongy tires, they give a lot of traction, a lot of grip, knobbly tires too. Suspension in the front too is helping. Excellent braking performance. This happens to be one of the best 20-inch fat wheel e-bikes that I have reviewed when it comes to the braking performance. I am now continuing my climb to go right up the top. It will be a good test to see if the motor might overheat. Hopefully it won't, but I'm climbing at a really steady rate here of 24 kilometers per hour. As for the range, well, it is great to see finally another company, there's very few that haven't over-exaggerated the claims of what you can potentially get out of this. So with my weight, of course it's going to vary between riders and riding conditions. In moped mode, they say you can get 40 to 50 kilometers. I'm looking more like 40 to 30 and just pure electric using the throttle here. But the rides I'm doing now, I've done 46 or so kilometers. I am seeing almost about 1 battery bar, even though now it's showing like 4. It's a little inaccurate. I have worked out that I can probably do about 10 more, maybe 8 or so more. So I'm seeing about 50 kilometers, 55 kilometer range out of it. And I have been pedaling a lot. So again, factor that in, that when you pedal quite a bit, it's going to increase your range. But it is pretty much on par with what they say. So the good about the bike, fantastic climbing performance, very good braking performance. It's like a motorcycle, really. The brakes on this are potent, good. Probably one of the best I have tested out so far. Front suspension, yes, it's no brand stuff. It does make a clunking noise a little bit, that front shock, but it works. Works reasonably well, and it does aid the ride comfort. What is really helping the ride is, of course, the fat, spongy 4-inch wide tires. Running a bit of a low pressure here too at the moment. I'm running, as I mentioned, about 11 and 13 PSI, soaking up a bit. You could even go even lower, and that makes it very comfortable. So it's a comfortable, fun, fast bike to ride with plenty of climbing performance. The frame seems very solid. I love the removable battery, that it's so easy to pull it out. It can be locked into place too. The downsides of this bike, well, the obvious is 35 kilos. It's heavy. You don't want to be lifting this up a flight of stairs. You're going to need 2 people for that job. The width of the frame here, because of this battery design being so huge too, 25 amp hours, it's wide. So when you first start riding and pedaling, you get a bit of inner thigh rubbing on this, and your knees maybe knock up against the frame. You eventually get used to it. You learn that when you start to pedal, to have your knees out a little bit, which feels a little awkward. It's not that comfortable in the beginning, but it becomes more commonplace when you ride around on it more. You start to remember to do that. So this is why I think it's really set up more for just using the throttle as a moped, as more of a motorcycle kind of e-bike, and less the pedaling side of things because of it. That is the main thing here with the bike. Frame quality seems very strong. The paint job looks good. The welds do look good. I don't see any areas of issue with possible cracking in the frame. No, all up. Looks good, such a fun, fast bike, and if you want something that's more motorcycle than e-bike, then this is probably it, the MX25. So thanks a lot for watching my review.